Hello there, welcome to the 88th episode of Under the Radar. I'm so happy to be back again. Not so many episodes this year, I've been very busy, playing tons of gigs here in North Carolina. Done I think 160 gigs this year, which is pretty typical for New York, so I had a little bit of a lull a year ago when I was traveling all about. But yeah, I'm happy to say that this is now my home, and a lot of things going on. But one, I wanted to update you on enslaved to servant news real quick before we break into Under the Radar itself. I have the red tape available. Got CDs, check these bad boys out. They are in these Digipack Lite cases. So they're a little smaller, but they got all the artwork by Mr. Matt Scheck of Slap Ass Creations, who put this layout together for me to look like an old antiquated cassette. On the back, all the lyrics for the actual songs. The poster art, which, by the way, also Matt Scheck made some posters. So I have both the poster and the red tape CD are available in my web store at samswansonmusic.com/store. Yes, an actual CD. I believe we've sent out 300 copies to all the listeners at Canary Cry Radio, since Basil and Gons of Canary Cry Radio play the DJs for 66.6 FM The Beast, which is this fictional radio station on the satire. Also, this CD has 27 tracks on it. I could not fit all 33, so the 33 track version is still on Bandcamp at slavetoservant.bandcamp.com. I also have created recently my own Sam Swanson Bandcamp page. So samswanson.bandcamp.com. I have all of my discography there, all 15 albums that I've made. I will be dropping a new album at the beginning of 2026, but I'll talk more about that later. Anyway, so yeah, check this out. This was recorded, again, this was my art project during the lockdowns. So while I was mixing Escape Babylon, I needed something to do, right? I was done with that record, and so this came to me, and I'm very happy and pleased with the way it turned out. So again, you can go get it for free online at Bandcamp, or you can get yourself a physical copy. I only made 1,000 copies, and yes, there's a parental advisory logo on this, so there is explicit content, which is not typical for me. Okay, so once again, totally appreciate any support. I have a lot of other items in the web store at samswansonmusic.com/store. And if you feel like supporting me, that is so appreciated. Before we break into the release for today, though, I want to just update you guys on some of the bands that I've covered in the past have new things happening, and I do this every now and then. So I'd like to start first with Flowers for Dorian, since I'm talking about Matt Scheck. Good segue into that band. They are doing a reunion. I probably will be happening around the time this episode drops, or maybe happened right before this episode drops, like a Thanksgiving reunion show at Sideouts in Island Lake, Illinois. Our boy Goldhouse is also playing, which he mixed a bunch of songs on the red tape, so check that out. In Spitalfield news, I saw that the band released a brand new record produced by Sean O'Keefe, the guy who did Remember Right Now and Take This to Your Grave, and some of the other albums I've covered in this series. Went back and did a record with him. There's actually a song on this brand new album called Remember Right Now, and the band is touring right now. I saw One Life in One Life news. They are opening for Spitalfield at the Beat Kitchen in Chicago soon. In the Academy Is news, we have a tour going on, the 20th anniversary of Almost Here. So they are touring on that record right now all over the US, which is exciting to see all these little updates that they keep posting, videos, etc. I saw my buddy Gino posted Plain White Tees dates. He had some photos with the boys playing When We Were Young Festival. That was cool to see. Also, Gino being a part of After Project and Duck Phone Records, who released some of my records. Other under-the-radar bands include Motion City Soundtrack. I saw that they have a brand new record out right now. I forget who it was that produced it. I don't know if they went back to O'Keefe. They might have done it with O'Keefe. Gosh, I wish I had that data on me right now. But anyway, new record, it's out on Epitaph. Mr. Patrick Stump of Fall Out Boy co-wrote a song on the record and sang with Justin, which he actually did backing vocals on Tell Me If You're Alright, Everything Is Alright, off of their second album, Commit This to Memory, back in the day. This was what was really cool about in Motion City News. They're on tour right now with Say Anything. However, Justin got sick and they were performing at the Minnesota Yacht Club in Minneapolis. And this is like a big event that like 311 and Weezer were playing, but Fall Out Boy was playing. And since Justin was in the hospital, Patrick jumped on stage and essentially sang most of the whole show. I think they had a couple other guest vocalists on some songs as well. So that was a kind of a cool thing. And then I saw Jamie Wolford of The Stereo, who I've covered in the past, had some photos that he had posted on social media with the Motion City guys, Patrick Stump, etc. So that was really cool to see as well. The Brokedowns. Saw that the Brokedowns just dropped a brand new album on Red Scare. Frickin' that band, they just keep cranking them out, I tell you. I know I saw recently, to touch on Rise Against, I saw Dan Precision made a post about both Rise Against and 88 Fingers Louie and Fat Records and Hopeless Records. It was like this, it was from this summer. I can't remember everything that it said, but interestingly enough, not long after that post, I saw that, in addition, I've mentioned like a year ago in an episode that NoFX was calling it quits and they did their last tour. Well, Fat Mike recently sold the entire Fat Records catalog to Hopeless Records, which it's in good hands, I would presume, being at Hopeless. But I think, again, like, this is just sort of one of those things for me as somebody who thinks a little bit differently about the world that we live in. And I will be, once we get through all these first 100 episodes, I intend on talking more about that in my journey with other releases of other media that I'll be covering that don't have to do with the Chicago scene. But I think it's a sign of the times that Fat Mike sold the entire Fat Records catalog.
The AI bubble is now about 4 times larger than the subprime mortgage crisis of 2008 that nearly collapsed the global financial system. It's estimated that generative AI now accounts for 40% of U.S. gross domestic product, meaning when this bubble pops, the American economy, and presumably the world's, goes with it.
It's strange times we're in. There is something happening. That's all I will say. And that is why I created Slave to Servant, was to talk about those things in music. Not just my spirituality, but just my outlook on the world that we live in and where we're heading. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting. Of course, Fat Records was Toby Jag at Red Scare Industries that just put out that Brokedowns record. He was a worker there at Fat Records, and I believe they had distro through Fat for the longest time. So it was almost like a imprint almost of Fat Records, if you will. And then in Slave to Servant, I guess relating, we haven't covered releases by Slave to Servant or Handsome Young Ladies yet, but we will once we reach that 100 episode barrier. And my buddy Jesse Sprinkle, like I said before, been on tour doing some dates with Poor Old Lou reunion, and that's been going phenomenal. They've been releasing these 80s covers of The Cure and Tears for Fears so far. So go follow Poor Old Lou. I would assume there's going to be a new record in the works at some point, and I intend on covering Blank Books, which is he and his brother Aaron Sprinkle of Poor Old Lou's project that came out right about the time that we were forming Handsome Young Ladies and putting out that record. So anyway, that pretty much sums up most of what I wanted to talk about. I also wanted to say Dr. Manhattan has been playing a bunch this last summer, and I saw that they were playing with Foxy's Shazam recently, which was really cool. I don't know what other intentions they have right at this moment, but that's a perfect segue into today's release, which is entitled Jam Dreams. So this is a really special record to me for a number of reasons. I've already covered the band's initial demo and EP in the first episode that I did about them. And then I covered their Vagrant debut self-titled album entitled Dr. Manhattan. And this has a story of its own. This is their follow-up to their self-titled record. And I'm gonna read a little blurb from the inside of this record. But first, before I do, I just wanted to flash this for a moment. Like, if you are looking at the screen, this sticker, this Vagrant decal that I have, the bands that were on this label, and I've said it before, was my favorite record label. That was, I mean, when Vagrant dropped a record at Circuit City or Best Buy or Borders or wherever I went to get my CDs, I was in. Like, all the drive-thru kids were in with the drive-thru CDs. I was a Vagrant guy. And these were my bands. And when D-Man signed to this label, it was like, it was almost just, it was very surreal for me. And I don't have to go too much more into that. Needless to say, I was very proud of them for accomplishing that. However, so many realizations through that process of them being on Vagrant. And one of them is going to be this. So a lot of bands, just labels don't do, like Hey Mercedes is a great example on the Vagrant roster. That first record did pretty well, and the second record pretty much flopped, and they got dropped. And that's kind of what happens, even with like the indie labels. You know, you would think, you know, they're more punk or they're whatever, but they still got to make money. In Dr. Manhattan's case, I don't think this is any sort of stretch here, but the self-titled album only sold, I believe, 2,000 copies. And I'm guessing, right? Like, I would imagine that there were at least 10,000 of them pressed. So they were sitting on a pretty large inventory, and that band didn't lie. Like, that was back when you had to do sound scans, you know, at the venue and say, how many did you sell a night? And bands would fake it and be like, we sold 300 CDs tonight, so that they could up their stats. And then when they were returning on another package tour, they could get like the next tier up and get paid more, get on a better tour, etc. Like, there was a hierarchy and a game to play. And Dr. Manhattan are just honest dudes that weren't gonna lie. So they only sold 2,000, and here is the results here, okay? This is called Jam Dreams. Let's just read a little bit about this. In the words of the band, we were dropped by our label, our booking agent, and our manager. After not recording for almost 2 years, we were starving. We called Casey Bates, who's the guy who, you know, mixed their previous record, to ask if we could record with him and pay him back. He said, fuck it, I'll do it for free. I just want to make some good music. Wow, Casey, can you be any more badass? In the mood to align some planets, Chris Conley called minutes later. Chris Conley of fucking saves the day. Get out. His inquiry, what are D-Man's plans for the new record? We informed. Casey offered to do it for free at his studio. It's a pretty sweet deal. Interesting, Chris thought, and then asked, what about my studio in Chico, California? A free engineer in Seattle, Washington, and a free producer in Chico, California. This should have been a predicament. We asked Chris, hey man, will you spend time and money to fly to Seattle and produce our album for free? I'd love to. Now that's a jam dream. What a great story. So they get dropped by Vagrant. Vagrant doesn't sell enough copies. Understandable. Bummer for the band, like, being not only a fan of Dr. Manhattan, but a Chris Conley fan. I've said it before, in Reverie, changed my whole world. I think that it's probably one of the greatest albums and most underrated records ever. Also a flop, a major label flop. which in turn made the band get dropped from DreamWorks, right? I mean, the label folded 3 days after the record's release, so... Anyway, to have Casey Bates basically record the whole record and then have Chris Conley sit in it as a producer and help engineer a little bit, like, get out. So the band got to kind of run wild. So my friends at Cassette Deck Media, they put this out. Mr. Jim Miller, who I've mentioned many times in the past in, most notably the Broke Down's New Brains for Everyone album episode, the Roses Are Blue episode, and then I definitely mentioned them in the last Dr. Manhattan episode. So go back to those if you would like more info on Jim Miller and Idiot Ego and what became Cassette Deck Media Conglomerate. I've already covered some of the releases that they put out in the catalog so far, and I have some more to go as well. But this may be, I would say, the best, in my opinion, release on Cassette Deck. That's my opinion. Love this record. It is so different, and I'm going to get into that as we start to listen to some of these songs. So 2009, summer of 2009, I think it was like August or September. It was right around the time I was getting married, actually. And I remember Jim Miller gave me a copy of this, and I was so happy. I was so pleased. We had just put out our Boom Juice record, and so there weren't a lot of new records coming out that summer. And so this was, again, just very exciting. One other thing to note, while this was recorded with the original lineup with Nick Von Brack on drums, they handed the torch off to Mark Esses to tour on the record, and Nick went back to school. And I'll probably talk a little bit more about that later. Of course, there are B-sides of this record, and later it was released on wax by Have Fun Records, which I have a copy right here, different alternate artwork on the website, or the Bandcamp, I believe, where you can still get a copy of this vinyl version. There are B-sides, and one of the B-sides I released on Alarm Clock with Duck Phone on the Hot Sauce weeks. Our song was called Weak Sauce Dorm Life, that is, and theirs was called Hot Sauce, and it was sort of like the Tracy's Buns of this record, and didn't make the record. I actually helped engineer it, but I'll talk more about that in the future. However, let's get back to the Jam Dreams album. So 2009, Cassette Deck puts this out, band goes on tour, No More Vagrant, Bye Bye Vagrant, and one of the things I wanted to say about the record before we start listening to the songs off of it, I had done the Goodnight Goodnight episode, which was Matt, singer of Dr. Manhattan, and his girlfriend Tracy, which I still have copies of that in my web store for those who are interested. That, if you listen to the Goodnight Goodnight EPs in between that first, the Vagrant self-titled Dr. Manhattan album, and then this one, I think that's a really good indicator of like how strange they were, like Matt was willing to get, right? Like, or just different, right? Like he was writing differently. If you listen to the Goodnight record, it's more in alignment with this than I think the first Dr. Manhattan record is. Of course, it sounds like Dr. Manhattan, but the songs, it's like a Pinkerton, right? Like in a lot of ways, it has a Pinkerton feel to it. It's really raw. Starts off with feedback, and I believe that the first record sort of started off with some feedback too, but this is just like a very raw sounding, like no frills record in the best way. I remember going to see the band at the Metro. I believe this was early 2009. This is before they went to go track with Casey Bates and Chris Conley, and of course Daniel Good did the drums with Nick. They played a Metro show. It was winter, and I went and saw them. It might have been Christmas. It might have been like right as we were going into 2009. It could have technically been at the tail end of 2008, and I was living in Logan Square at the time. I was making the Boom Juice record.
It is a new song that you probably haven't heard. So Without further ado, Andrew will begin the song. My friends.
I had the alarm comps, and I went to the Metro and I just handed out a ton of alarm comps to everybody in the audience while they were playing. And they played, I want to say they played 4 or 5, certainly at least 4 new songs that were going to be on this record. And mind you, I had played shows with them before, and so I had heard at least 2 of the songs that they were working on. That one of them wasn't finished and one was, but they were performing some of the stuff that did end up on here, years before. However, at this show at the Metro, they unleashed all new stuff. And the first song that they played, I believe, which is, I'm going to go ahead and say this is my favorite song on the record, is the opening track. It's entitled Electraumatized.
In the basement where they found me, I feel lucky, electraumatized. Surrounded by mannequins, I'm standing on hands and my friends are all standing around me. Enchanting, I'm panting, noise lasting heat. Fire has become connection, correction. Injection, confession, blow up, compare me, smithereen, control, out of control. Why? In the basement where they found me, I feel lucky, electraumatized. I am in love with my best friends. We are happy. Don't mind me, I'm wrecking the joy. I'm not yet insane. Let's just support. I'm just touching soul. This one and I love it. I'm seeing sky. Connect the spots. Police force correcting me. Correct correction. Correcting me. Why? Is it working? We are trying to fix you. I'm traumatized. I would like you to be with me. We'd be happy.
So immediately you recognize this is Dr. Manhattan, but this is a different Dr. Manhattan, and it feels somewhat like it could sort of, but not really fit with the last record. I'm gonna say that there's only one song on here that really reminds me of, like in full, like it reminds me of the first record. Everything on here every song is completely different. Electraumatized, I could go on a tangent. I think of it, even the title, differently now because of what I've studied over the years. And I was recently reading a book about a year ago that I bought by Arthur Furstenberg, and it's entitled The Invisible Rainbow, and it's the history of electricity and its effects on humanity. And it's almost like a revisionist history that most people aren't aware of what electricity, how it's impacted us. I won't get into it, but it's fascinating. And when I think about this song now in conjunction with that, I'm like, man, this is like the soundtrack to that kind of mindset for sure. Love that song. There's additional vocals of other members on this record, as opposed to having Matt sing the whole thing like he did on the first one. So you can hear that that's different on that song. I remember being really impressed when they played it live at Metro. I was really excited to hear what they were going to create. And of course, I thought this would have come out on Vagrant, right? I thought Vagrant was going to fund it and everything. So all that happened in between that Metro show and this record and some tours, and here we are. I guess I'm going to be self-indulgent here. My second favorite song I go back and forth between Electraumatized and this song, and I think it's tough. This might be my favorite. It's tough. Anyway, the next song I'm gonna play is called I'm High.
I've been collecting dirt since I escaped Wauconda. I love you too. Up all night, I'll get to you by sunrise. Orange and blue telephone, smells of home, a teasing holiday house. Connects the subtone to the mouth. Oh my lady, am I crazy? My appetite's gone soon. Rapid fire, yellow stripes, waterlogged paradise. You are warm and I'm clean. Starless night, home at last. Telephone, smells of home, a teasing holiday house. Connects the subtone to the mouth. Oh my lady, am I crazy? My appetite's gone soon.
Gosh, that song, the chords in it, they remind me of like In Reverie, like Chris Conley-esque, chords of In Reverie, and it's so good. It's a great song. I believe Jim Miller was the one who brought it to my attention, the vocals and the songs, like that one especially, would more fit, it kind of reminded him of Very Emergency, the record by Promise Ring. So I remember him saying at times Matt's vocals reminded him a little more Davey from Promise Ring. That's a great song. My next favorite song off of this record is a song called After All.
After all we've been through, I am still in love. After all the things we've seen, I am still in love. I don't know what this means, but it feels alright for now. I'll think about the rest tomorrow. 'Cause when I think about it, yes, I am still in love. What can one do? I'm still in love. What can one do? The cold collects my nerves. I'd like to wrap myself up in arms and cheeks like hers. I don't know what this means, but it feels alright for now. I'll think about the rest tomorrow. 'Cause when I think about it, yes, I am still in love. What can one do?
Now that song had some really cool chords in it as well. The synths that Andrew's playing, I mean, it does feel like Weezer sometimes as well. it really, like, there are moments where I feel Matt definitely reached into like the old Weezer catalog, like the first 2 to 3 records. Yeah, anyway, after all, top 3 right there. Those are my favorites. Now, I'm gonna get into a couple songs. Well, on the Weezer tip, here, how's this sound? We're gonna play a song that we'll listen to it. It's a nice Weezer segue, right? This song, to me, sounds a lot like Hash Pipe by the band Weezer off their third The Green album. The melodies, at least. The song's called Biscuits and Groovy.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Rolling on some rubber bubbles, fastened to poles, climbing up the compass, troubled as I make my way home. My love is huddled up, her collegiate soul has a hole just like mine. Yesterday it was full, but I had to go. Oh, I'll be back. How am I to know when I'll be back? But when I'm back, we'll go out to a movie, and we'll go out to get some biscuits and groovy. Biscuits and groovy, the fruit is a smoothie, the chicks are so nudie, to jam is your duty. Biscuits and groovy.
You may hear that same sentiment in the verses, especially for that song. I know that the band I had heard at least that they had filmed a video for that song, and I think they had filmed it with Mark Esses of Flowers for Dorian, but I don't know if that's ever been confirmed. I've never seen a video for it. They did, however, film a music video for this next song. This song is entitled Mailman.
Oh, sweet joys, I made some friends of friendly girls and boys. Amongst all the noise, we fit like 2 necks in a ball basket piece, dude. Our necks were on fire, the burn smelled like Jim Jam. After reading a book in one sitting, I took some CMT and couldn't find my contacts for a week. And they asked us, get 2 carrots, taco lattes? No, I'm not hungry, then the smallest sip will do. Mailman, what do you got? Mail. It's a really fight, too long night, after a long night, down there. Mailman, what do you got? Mail. It's a really fight, to a jam dream, oh, I don't ever wanna wake up.
And yeah, so they had a music video for this one, hilarious, of Matt, I think it was Matt, walking around with this outfit. But this was, Mailman was just an instrumental when Dorm Life, when we would be playing with them in like 07, 08, 09. They played that song before it had vocals or anything. They would just jam out with it all the time. So yeah, they played this one very early on, like around the time that they were releasing or already recorded the last record. The next song that I'm gonna play off of here was another song that they were playing in like 07, 08. And this song was complete. They had the vocals and everything. I know that I went and filmed the band a bunch and they would play both these songs, but this was the only one off Jam Dreams that they played in full that was fully written. This song is entitled Texas.
You left me for Texas on the same tracks that tricked us by the blue house. We ate there, it had been 1 month. Your doorbell's just as muffled, but the walkway that we shoveled is now icy, and the longer wait feels much colder. You left me, now I'm at home where you left me far. Home sweet home, Texas. You left me for Texas, and I am home alone.
always enjoyed that song. It was very lively. I remember filming them at the Metro playing that song one time. I think they were opening for Newfound Glory and Senses Fail, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, I could play a lot more songs off of this CD, but the reason I'm not going to is because I've already played so many. We're going in at 7 songs now out of 12, and I wanted to leave one more because I had said there's only one song on here I feel that sounds like it could be on the first Dr. Manhattan record, the self-titled Vagrant debut. And this song really does feel like it could have fit anywhere on that record, and it is entitled Man with a Woman's Chest. Definite self-titled vibes on that song. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think that about sums it up for this record for the most part. I will be covering, like I said, in the future, the Hot Sauce Weak Sauce split, and I will probably cover Bolo Yodo, the cassette, later after we reach the 100 episode threshold. Just one of my favorite bands, absolute favorite bands from Chicago. Peers, homies, proud that I put out a split with them and had them on the Alarm Comp and put out Good Night, Good Night, and I think they are a highly underrated band. I actually recently, and I'm not going to get too much into this, but I'm in a project right now. I'm gonna leave it nameless, but it features the original drummer of Minus the Bear, and he is a fan of this band, and he was saying like he wished he had heard them back in the day. He got into them way late, but yeah, Nick is part of the indie drummer collective, which Aaron Tate of Minus the Bear started in 2020, around the time that little after the time I started this whole series. So anyway, a lot of people, they're a band's band. I feel like the band people get them more than other people, and that's okay. I think that's how my band's, or at least Dorm Life, was that way. But yeah, anyway, highly underrated band. Shout outs to Dr. Manhattan and Cassette Deck Media for putting out a banger of a record. Obviously you can hear, it's not so catchy like some of the other stuff was. It's catchy in its own way. It's not like they did something totally avant-garde, but there are some elements to it where you're like, wow, this is very experimental. Even more experimental than the first one. So yeah, if you can get a copy on Discogs, good luck. I think there were probably only 1,000 of these pressed on CD. I don't know how many were pressed on vinyl, but I know that you can get a vinyl record. Also, in my web store, feel free. I have some Dr. Manhattan items there. I have the Hot Sauce Weak Sauce split. I think I have about 20 copies left of that vinyl. It's on red vinyl, released on Alarm Clock and Duck Phone Records, 2012. I'll be covering that soon. And I also have the original promo Vagrant sampler of Dr. Manhattan's self-titled album that has Big Chomper and another song on it. I actually sold one of those recently. Somebody bought one of those and a Goodnight CD, so that was kind of cool. So you can get that there. I think I might have 1 or 2 copies of the Alarm Comp left, which has 2 songs that were only available on the band's EP, their debut EP, so those are exclusive as well. If you want anything by Dr. Manhattan, feel free to go there. Go to Discogs and get the vinyl version or the CD version of Jam Dreams, good luck with that. And in other news, I would like to say, so I guess the cat's out of the bag now that I mentioned Aaron Tate and I are working on new music. Our band is called Take Over the World. We are currently just covering songs, and we are very influenced by what I would call post-disco music and R&B from the late 70s, the early 80s, kind of that realm, like Prince, The Time, like just all kinds of stuff like that. We've bonded over a lot of yacht rock and new wave and all kinds of music, hip hop. He's playing in a group called Lil Lebowski as well, and you can check them out. We only have one song at this current moment in time that's available. We did a cover of The Dream, which is not in that wheelhouse of what I'm describing, but we were just experimenting what it would be like to play together, and we did a cover of Turned Out by The Dream. You can get that on Spotify and all that. We are about to release a second single, which is a cover of DeBarge, the band, and the song I Like It is what we are covering. Should have a music video dropping for that. You can check out Take Over the World on YouTube and like I said, Spotify. There will be more to mention on that in the future. I'm excited because we will eventually utilize this era of making cover songs as sort of like the just testing it out. What do we sound like? What do we want to sound like? And when we start writing originals, it'll really, I think, cement our chemistry together. So I'm just feeling very blessed that I'm working with Aaron, because he's one of my favorite drummers, was in, dare I say, my favorite band of the last 25 years, who, by the way, is Minus the Bear, is on tour right now on Menos El Oso, which is the game changer in my opinion for that band. Just one of the best albums I've ever heard. And Aaron Tate, helped write that record. Like he and David Knudsen, of Botch, back when Botch was bigger than Minus the Bear, they made that record listening to like Daft Punk and Kylie Minogue and all that kind of stuff, trying to make music that, it was a rock band, but not influenced by rock music. And that's kind of like, in a way, where we're going right now, I think. And I think I hit on a lot of this in the Roses Are Blue episode, because we were kind of on a different but similar trajectory in some ways at that time. Anyway, very excited about that. Check out Take Over the World if you can find us. More will be coming out in the future. And as I said, the red tape is now available. You can go to my website, samswansonmusic.com/store. Please feel free to purchase something. I have shirts, I have posters, stickers, vinyl, CDs, all kinds of things. I very much appreciate your support. In addition to that, again, I have a new Bandcamp page, samswanson.bandcamp.com, where you can get all of my albums. I've just rebranded them. Everything from 2002 to 2025, I just kind of put it under the Sam Swanson moniker. Put my little signature on each of the records, etc. I just sold like 10 of them yesterday at like $15. You can name your price, by the way. You can get them for free if you don't want to pay anything. Just feel free to go to samswanson.bandcamp.com and just like I said, type in $0. Again, samswansonmusic.com/store if you would like to buy a physical item. I really appreciate that. And I look forward to coming back soon with another episode and updates on all the things. There's a lot going on right now. But yeah, I'll leave you with that. And I look forward to talking to you soon. And thank you for your time.